and welcome back to Dicebreaker, where today we played Eco's First Continent, which is a Euro game by AEG, which is Old Rack, is it? I always forget what they're called because I just know them as AEG.
Yeah, Old Rack Entertainment
Group.
Oh, group.
Grumpany.
I thought it was AEC for some reason in my head.
Yeah, so Eco's First Continent is a sort of Euro game in which you'll be building engines with some cards in front of you. So as you'll see, if we flip down to the top-down camera, you're going to have a few cards, like the ones in front of ladies here, that have these costs on the left and their effects in the middle. So every turn, can you do the back? Because I don't know how it felt.
Every turn, you
Every
take
turn.
a tile out of this bag, place it down, and it will show you a symbol. And that lets you put one of these cubes, of which you have like 7 at the beginning.
You start with 7, yeah.
You have to put it on wherever you see that symbol on your card, and if you don't have that symbol on any of your cards, you can flip this boy around. Is there a name for this? It's a sundial.
It's like your tracker or something, I don't know. But basically, you rotate it 90 degrees clockwise each time you do it, and you can do that instead of placing, even if you have the requisite thing, but you might just want to do that instead. And then when you turn it twice, you can sort of flip it back to the start to gain a card, or if you wait and do it 3 times, then you can flip it back to the start to either gain a new cube or to play a card for the ones that you haven't already played in your hand. So you can basically extend the amount of options that you have. So everyone starts with, I think you start with 3 cards in front of you, unless you're playing 2-player, in which case it's 5. But you'll start with 3 actions that you can do, and then you can see these little leaves show you how many times that can be done. So
every time you use it, you rotate it.
Yeah.
And you can do that. In this case, you can do it 4 times.
In fact, all of these are forecasts, but some of them will only be able to be used once. Some of them will have like 3.
Like this one.
Yeah, so this one's like a
only 1 leaf.
One-time action. It's really expensive as well, so it's got loads of different tiles. And you also have like a little cheat sheet to see how many of these tiles are actually in the bag. So the sun tiles, for example, are really plentiful, but things like the animals and these little stone circles, the first one you drew actually, are really rare. You're going to keep doing this and keep spending each tile as you do it until you draw one of these wild tiles. Please tell me you're not going to go through the entire bag finding a wild tile.
I am a wild tile. Wild tile!
Hey man,
dum, dum,
take a walk on the wild tile. So once you get one of these, it can be used for any suit, but as soon as you draw it, the turn is over and then we reset the bag and pass it to the next person around the group. I really don't like it. The way this game works is you're going to start off with like 4 tiles on the board. You're either sea, desert, or land, or grassland rather. I think these are land tiles together and then grassland is green. But essentially they all have different animals that can populate them. They can each have trees and mountains if they're not water. They can also have like double trees if you manage to get them mounted on the grasslands and stuff like that. So there's a few different sort of placement rules, and then every now and again you'll have the chance to place new tiles and expand the board, and you might gain points for doing so. What you need to do is find the synergy between the cards you have in front of you. So for example, you're going to gain extra actions on this card per adjacent animal. So if you get another card that allows you to place lots of animals next to it, then suddenly you can use that to build up an engine. So, okay, well now that I've done that, then I get like, I don't know, 3 sun actions. Then I can spend that on this and immediately gain 2. And then I gain more actions, which I can spend on something else. And it sets off a chain of events. But one thing that was interesting for me, which I'm not used to from these sort of engine building games, is that your engine is sort of finite.
Yeah.
Because these cards only have so many uses, you can only do the same thing so many turns, which is quite interesting.
Yes.
Which is a segue for you to then say something.
I said yes, didn't I?
No context. It's Friday. We're both incredibly tired. Oh, God. Some of the cards will be more specific, so some of them, instead of just being like land tiles and things like that, some will say, so one thing that I got, because you get these sort of like starter hands that they recommend, but you can build your own if you like, so it's almost sort of deck building as well at the start. So we were playing with 2 of the starter hands, and my one was all sort of like hippo based.
Yeah.
So I had a few that placed hippos, and then I had ones that if you had like a big contiguous group of hippos that were next to certain things, you get extra points for having them. And then you got ones that got to turn some sea creatures into other sea creatures, so you could turn tokens that other people have placed into your hippos. So you were sort of like set collecting with my hand.
Yeah, it was weird because you had a very clear like thing that you were doing with your hippo collecting. It was, and I was like, why is he so crazy about hippos?
You had no idea what I was up to, did you?
Because I wasn't really looking out for it either, but I didn't really see in my set that there was something very specific. Obviously, I don't know. I mean, maybe the hippos thing was just a bit more clear because obviously like hippos are hippos. Mine might have been more about land because I was getting bonus points if I had like connecting lands and stuff like that. And I could just like there was a point where I could remove this and replace it with water.
Yeah, and you managed to make like a river between the two lands.
Yeah. So maybe that was mine. I mean, I wasn't really paying that much attention to like an overarching kind of thing. But it's quite cute because the different decks are split in by these footprints at the bottom of the card. What I just noticed actually, you've got these little plant things. Did you
these are alternative versions. So there's loads of like there's loads of different sort of setups that you can start with. But literally every card in both of these decks is completely unique. Right. So you'll see they're all numbered. So depending on what sort of selection of cards you get, and I think the reason they have the predefined ones because you could just end up with a really crap hand.
Right.
So these give you sort of like predetermined things so that, and it will depend on which ones come out at the start, but you'll have some kind of motivation of like, oh, okay, well I can see that these two join up. And when we were first playing, it was sort of just like, okay, I guess I just do these things.
Yeah.
But then, as we were revealing more cards, because every time you flip round to your last stage of this, you get to actually play a card from your hand. Suddenly, we were like, oh, okay, because you can choose which cards you play, right?
Yeah.
So suddenly, I was like showing lots of links, like between the hippos, or I had these two cards that were sort of mountain-based. So I had one that placed loads of mountains, then I had one that gave me loads of points if I had continuous areas of mountains and stuff like that. So it was kind of like that standard sort of Euro game where it's like you start with a few things and then you build up and then you get more sort of like tools which then allow you to explode. And then basically you're just trying to get to one of these point markers. If you're going for a short game, so you go for 60. If you're going for a long game, you go for 80. Whenever someone triggers that sort of like cap on the points, it's the final activation, which means that you only get to
final countdown.
You only get to do the cards that have already been completed on that turn, and then whoever has the most points wins the game. But yeah, it was like I genuinely had a really nice time with it actually. Like when we first got it out, like it seemed a bit bland.
I was just about to say.
And I was like, oh god, like look at these tiles.
I think as well in the headspace we're kind of in today.
Yeah,
end
exactly.
Of the week, all that stuff, and we've just had a bit of a week. Yeah, we were a bit like, but it was really fun, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and I would like to play it again now, especially now that I know that there's actually like a link between my cards.
Yeah, we should give it another go now that you sort of like have seen how it plays. I think now that like it will take like a turn or two to get it fully into your head, so sometimes it's better to sort of like have a start. And they do recommend like these are the starter hands, so like if you want to go for they even had like paired ones. I don't really look at them, but they were like if you want to have like a really even matchup, these two play against each other well and stuff like that. So it's quite interesting. The rulebook was quite thick, considering like it's genuinely not that complicated a game, but like there was a lot of information in here. And whilst it wasn't like poorly laid out or anything, like it was all very understandable. Like there was just a lot of stuff to read, and it's quite big pages.
Yeah. The thing is, though, I mean, we kind of discussed that when you were going through the rule book, and it was a bit like, oh god, there's a lot to it. I did say to you at one point, I was like, I know someone who's played this, who really likes this, and he plays this with his kids who are quite young.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those games like you will pick up. And once we started playing, it was really simple.
Yeah.
It was just there was just a lot of rules to kind of get around at the beginning, because there's a lot of kind of elements, I guess, to it. But it's really simple once you're in it.
Yeah, it was basically just like, and there's definitely room for depth. Like you can have some really clever plays, like especially with these cards that give you extra sort of placements, you can really trigger things off in a sort of like shotgun effect.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I had a really good time with it, and like it's not just the cards that you start with as well, because all the rest of the cards that you don't pick at the start game then get set to decks, and then you can start drawing into them, and you'll start to get these mega powerful cards, which are these red ones. So that was not a very good example, but for example,
this one was the.
Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, so this one, like you place down a water tile, then you immediately get 10 points, and then you can convert animals and move them around. Then you get a card, and then you play a card, then you gain a wild action. Like there's loads of little things that did lots and lots of stuff, but it took me ages to fill this up, which meant I was kind of behind at the start. because as you can see, the sort of like the more you go down this little tile tracker thing, they get rarer and rarer. So there's 10 of those sun tiles in the bag, but there's only 2 of these animals. And there's only 4 of the vine and all that kind of stuff. So like this was a really tricky card to play off, and it's all just, there's a little bit of gambling involved.
Yeah.
It's like, because you've only got so many cubes, like let's say that you've got this set up here and you know you've got maybe like 3 cubes left, and you have 1 cube here and you have like 2 cubes here, and you've got your 3 or 2 or whatever cubes to spend. You then have to decide, well, I just drawn a sun. I could place that there because suns are really prominent, or I could try and wait and see if I get that water or grass card to come out, because then this is a much more useful effect, for example. So you're always thinking, okay, well, do I chance it? Because you always know the odds of what's left in the bag if you want to try and sort of work it out. And you've always got a feeling of like, all right, like animals are really wild. So if a card's got 2 animals on it, it's going to be really, really tricky to pull it off. So I might have to wait until the end of a round when we get that wild card. So yeah, there's a lot of like different elements to think about. I'm also got this like half really impressed and half kind of annoyed by the production.
I was just gonna say, I was just about to start on that. There's some things I really like, but actually some of those same things I find not great as well. It's weird. It's like this. I'm gonna start with this because this is quite cute. So it's like a little thing that holds the different animals. So you've got like your lion / shark, manatee, blah 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 blah, and they all sit quite nicely in there. But I don't know if you can see, but they're quite like banjax is the word I would use. I don't know what other word.
What the hell does banjax mean?
It's like really bent and like kind of already falling
flimsy.
apart. Flimsy, yeah.
Right.
And that was just like by putting it together. Like I wasn't doing anything major with it, but it just kind of like looks a bit like not very nice already. The card hasn't really
stuck together very well. Yeah. But then the really nice thing about it is, not only does it look like a cute little animal pen, but also they come with these little lids so that when you're putting it back in the box, like it just sort of tucks away neatly, and it all gets sort of just sort of kept like that.
Which you need because there's no inlay in the box, which is kind of nice as well. Because to be honest, like I do think there's a lot of plastic going on, and like to be able to keep something like that, you probably would need plastic if you didn't have something like that. So it's quite a sweet idea.
What this reminds me of is Small World, and Small World, I hate playing Small World because not only do I not think it's a very good game, but like also the little tray that you put the chits in is such a pain in the arse because it takes ages to put everything away, and then it has this horrible like plastic lid, and then they all fall out in the box and stuff, and you get them and you have to resort them and everything. Whereas this, like it's all card, so there's no horrible plastic involved, and it all just sits there, and as soon as you take the lid off, it's already ready to play with. Yeah, so it's like, it's really nice. I really enjoyed it. And they've got the exact same thing for the cube box as well, so you just shove a little lid on there and then that's ready to go.
I love when we first put it together, it was the first thing we put together, and we hadn't put the cubes in or anything, and we were like,
how do you get them in?
The cubes in? And we were like, oh yeah, you play without the lid. There's a white cube in there.
Oh yeah, it's for one of the player box or something. But yeah, like I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really nice.
Yeah,
like I wasn't expecting to have such a good time with it.
And it is finally like one of those games. I don't think we really talk about this often enough when we talk about games that we've played in this, like games like this. But this is a great game that you can play with kids as well. Like it's simple enough that they would grasp it. There is a bit to it, but I think if like with your help,
I wouldn't say young kids.
No,
I would say
no.
like, you know, like 10, 12.
I'd even say 8, 9.
Yeah. Because it's got like if you give a kid a card like this, I feel like there's so many things going on. They're like, wait, okay, what? But you just sort of you go through the steps, and then all the iconography is pretty clear.
I think you can like go through it together, and then you'll be fine.
I think if this had like a slight redesign where just some of the more sort of bland elements were just sort of prettied up a bit, I would be really into this.
Yeah, like we were talking about this, like we really like the scoreboard. It's quite like
and the card backs
cool.
are lovely. Look at those. Like
they're
really, really
beautiful.
gorgeous. And this, I really like the little boxes. They've got the same sort of design with like the almost like henna tattoo style like patterns on them.
But then these are very like generic and just a bit bland.
Yeah.
You did like the way that the water one is slightly smaller. I don't really like that, but I kind of see your point.
It's difficult to pick up on camera, but the land tiles are thicker than the water tiles, so that when you place them together, it looks like a sort of ridge, so that the water level's actually lower, which I think is a nice little touch.
Yeah, but I wonder if that's what they were going for, or if that's just
surely that must be intentional, I would say.
I hope
That
so.
would be a weird fluke if not.
Yeah. But then also like the animal tiles are just like
It's just like, yeah,
generic.
just bland animal image.
Like I think they could have, like you're kind of saying, like gone for like more of a almost like a cave drawing type thing.
Like because it's called Eco's First Continent, so it's basically it's like it feels like it's supposed to be the like Land Before Time style, like animals are starting to populate the Earth now. This is not human centric at all, and you're almost like godly kind of like terraforming and stuff.
Yeah.
So like it makes sense to have that kind of that art style. I keep thinking, and this is a video game reference, so sorry, but there's this game called From Dust. Or just Dust or something like that, where it has that sort of like first human civilization kind of like tribal art style. I think something like that would be really pretty with this if they just had like sort of like artists' impressions of the animals rather than just sort of like what could almost be photographs. And just gone with this sort of really lovely sort of tribal style to it. I think it would have worked. Like the cards, you flip them, you've got that gorgeous back, and then you flip it, and it's just like this bland parchment. It's like great, cool. So yeah, I think there's definitely a few things that they could have done slightly better, but I really like this. I really enjoyed it. I really had a nice time with it.
And I really like the bag.
I don't like the bag because it's made of felt, and I think felt feels horrible in your hands. Smash those comments if you agree. Hey Wheels, I agree. Felt feels really bad. I don't eat felt. Thanks very much for watching this video here at Dicebreaker.com. We have lots and lots and lots of reviews, and today we played some animal tiles and all kinds of stuff here on youtube.com/Dicebreaker. You can hit the subscribe button right in the middle, and we've got some recommended videos that Lodi's just pointed to as well, which you might enjoy. Now, if you prefer a little bit of a written article, well then don't worry, because Dicebreaker.com has you covered with lots of fantastic lists, guides, opinion pieces, reviews, all kinds of stuff.
That's how they do it.
We don't use typewriters. I don't know why Lodi's is doing this, but we have a fantastic...
I've got me an article!
Oh my god. What a scoop! We've got an amazing team of editorial writers who are just fantastic, and as well
Captain Jarvis.
Captain Jarvis, and loads of really, really good contributors as well who have sent in their freelance pitch articles as well. And if that's something that you'd like to do, we have a little section on the website where you can pitch for a post as well.
I might do it myself.
Yeah, so there's I mean, you work here, Lily, so you're just going to have to do that. So thanks very much for watching. This has been Eco's First Continent. We've been Dicebreaker.
Have a lovely continent.
Have a lovely day.